You know. Not a suspicion, not a feeling you can't quite name. You know. You've known for a while, actually. Maybe months, maybe longer. And the knowing sits in you like something you've been carrying quietly, not heavy enough to force a decision, not light enough to put down. And you're still there. Not because you haven't seen it clearly. You've seen it clearly. You've had the conversation with yourself at 2 a.m. at least 100 times, where everything was honest and the conclusion was always the same. And you're still there. There's a question you keep circling, not out loud, in the moments when everything is honest. What is wrong with me? Nothing is wrong with you. There's something wrong with how leaving feels, and that is a completely different problem. By the end of this, you'll understand exactly why your brain keeps choosing to stay, and why it has nothing to do with how much you love this person. What this is not 3 things this isn't. It's not that you're afraid of being alone. Some people staying in wrong relationships genuinely prefer being alone. Loneliness is not the mechanism here. It's not that you don't love yourself enough. High self-worth people stay in wrong relationships too. The research is clear on this. Self-worth is not the engine. And it's not that you just need more courage. Courage implies this is a willpower problem. It isn't. No amount of deciding will change what we're about to explain. Staying isn't a failure of knowing. You already know. Staying is what happens when your brain runs a calculation below awareness, before you've been consulted, and concludes that leaving is the more dangerous option. Kahneman and Tversky spent years documenting something that holds across every culture, every age, every income level. Losses feel roughly twice as powerful as equivalent gains. Losing something hurts approximately twice as much as gaining the same thing feels good. Translate that to a relationship. Your brain isn't weighing what you'd gain by leaving. It's calculating what you'd lose. And that calculation is biased, by design, to make the loss feel enormous and the gain feel uncertain. So what exactly is the brain afraid of losing? Because it's not just the person. There are 3 things your brain is protecting, and the person is almost the least important of them. Chapter 1, The 3 Losses. Here's what your brain is actually calculating. Not love, not compatibility. 3 specific things it doesn't want to lose. First, the sunk cost. Every year, every conversation that mattered, every version of yourself that formed inside this relationship, the person you became in response to them, the stories only you two have, the references that don't translate to anyone else. Rusbult's investment model, confirmed in replications across 4 decades, found something that sounds obvious but isn't. The more you've invested, the more leaving feels like waste. Not just loss waste. Your brain treats the past as collateral. The longer you stay, the more it costs to leave. Second, the identity. Who you are inside this relationship. The version of you that exists here and nowhere else. Leaving doesn't just mean losing them. It means losing that version of yourself. And your brain doesn't cleanly distinguish between the two. Third, the certainty. Even bad certainty feels safer than good uncertainty. You know exactly what this is. You know its shape, its rhythms, its worst moments, and its best ones. What's on the other side of leaving is unknown, and the brain wired for threat detection treats the unknown as danger. The wrong relationship is a known quantity. Freedom isn't. Leaving isn't just losing them. It's losing the version of yourself that only existed in their presence. And your brain can't always tell the difference between those 2 things. But here's where it gets more specific. These 3 losses would explain why anyone stays anywhere. What makes this particular what makes it yours is something that was installed much earlier than this relationship. Chapter 2, where familiar pain was learned, it didn't start with this person. And it didn't start with you. The brain doesn't just calculate loss in the abstract. It calculates loss against a baseline, a default setting for what relationships feel like. And that baseline was set long before this one. In a room, or a series of rooms, where love and discomfort arrived together so consistently that the brain stopped seeing them as separate things. A home where love was inconsistent, present sometimes, absent others, without pattern or explanation. A child in that home learns, love is not reliable. It requires constant tending. The moment you stop working for it, it disappears. Staying and working become synonymous with having, and that equation becomes the template. A first relationship that felt most alive during conflict, most connected during repair. The calm stretches felt empty by comparison, not because they were bad, but because they didn't spike the same way. The nervous system calibrated, intensity equals love. The quieter, healthier thing that comes later doesn't register as love. It registers as nothing. A model of love in a parent, a caregiver, a first attachment that was also a source of unpredictability. Not cruelty, just the same person who was warmth was also the source of unease. The brain filed this as, this is what love is, and it has been selecting for it ever since. The wrong relationship doesn't feel wrong from the inside. It feels familiar, and familiar, to a nervous system, registers as safe, even when the evidence says otherwise. You're not staying because you can't see the problem. You're staying because the problem feels like home, and this is where Maya comes in. Because she can see it. She's seen it for a long time, and she is still there. Chapter 3, Maya. I want to tell you about a woman named Maya. She's 34, not someone who lacks self-awareness. She's talked about this relationship in therapy. She can describe, with painful clarity, exactly what isn't working. She can tell you what she would tell a friend in her situation. She knows. It's a Sunday. He's in the other room. The afternoon has that particular quality, not bad, not good, just the texture of something that's become ordinary in a way that doesn't feel like enough. She sits with the question she always sits with. Why don't I leave? The answer that comes back is never simple. It's not that she loves him too much. It's not that she's afraid of being alone. It's something harder to hold a feeling that the version of herself that exists in this apartment, in this relationship, on this particular ordinary Sunday, would disappear if she walked out of it. She's imagined the leaving. She's planned it, quietly, more than once. And every time she reaches the moment in the plan where she's actually gone, there's something that feels less like freedom and more like falling. A groundlessness her nervous system reads as danger. She isn't staying because she hasn't decided to leave. She's staying because every time she reaches the edge, her nervous system goes quiet, and her body stays. Because if Maya's Sunday felt familiar, the knowing, the not leaving, the groundlessness at the edge of leaving, that's not evidence of something broken. That's a nervous system doing exactly what it learned to do in a room that no longer exists, for a threat that is no longer what it was. Keep going. Chapter 4, the honest reason. Here's the part almost no one says out loud. The wrong relationship is providing something, not love, not happiness, something the nervous system has come to depend on. Predictability, a known architecture, a role to play inside a structure that, however imperfect, gives the day a shape. And sometimes, the identity of still being the person who is going to change this, who is going to get it right this time, who is still trying. Leaving means surrendering that identity too. The one who is working on it, growing through it, almost there. The brain has tied a significant amount of self-concept to this relationship. and it resists losing that version of itself as much as it resists losing the person. And sometimes the wrong relationship has genuine moments, real connection inside something that overall doesn't work. The brain doesn't average those moments. It holds them separately as proof that what's being considered lost is real, which it is. The moments were real. The question is whether they're enough. And that question has no clean answer from the outside. You're not staying because you're weak. You're staying because something real exists inside something that isn't working. And your brain hasn't figured out how to hold those two things at once. So what actually changes this? Because it isn't a decision and it isn't insight. Both of those have already been tried. Chapter 5, what actually shifts the nervous system doesn't change through deciding. You already know that. You've decided before. It doesn't change through insight either. You've had the insight. You've named it. You've described it accurately to other people. The knowing was never the problem. What shifts the calculation slowly, incompletely, is accumulated evidence of something different. Repeated experience of the unknown being survivable. Evidence, over time, that what's on the other side of leaving isn't the groundlessness the brain predicted. That the version of you that exists outside this relationship is not less than the one inside it. That evidence comes from small things. One honest conversation with someone who knew you before this relationship. One day that felt full in a way that had nothing to do with them. One moment where you were alone, and the aloneness was not what the brain said it would be. And sometimes none of that arrives until after the leaving. Sometimes the nervous system only receives the evidence it needs once the decision has already been made and the groundlessness turned out to be ground. This is not comforting to hear before, but it is accurate, and it's worth knowing. The nervous system doesn't trust the other side of leaving until it has stood there. Sometimes the evidence only comes after. The knowing was never the problem. You've known for a while, and you're still there. And that doesn't mean something is wrong with you. It means your nervous system is running the exact calculation it was built to run. Weighing a known suffering against an unknown freedom, and choosing again and again the thing it can predict. That's not weakness. That's not stupidity. That's a brain protecting you from something it learned in a specific room was dangerous. Whether you stay or leave, that isn't something this video can or should decide for you. What it can do is give you the correct question. Not, what is wrong with me? But, what is my nervous system protecting me from? And is the thing it's protecting me from still there? You're not staying because you don't know better. You're staying because your nervous system has never learned to trust what's on the other side of leaving. If this named something you've been carrying, leave one word in the comments. Just one. The feeling. The question. The Sunday. You don't need to explain it. The people reading the comments will understand exactly what you mean. I'll read every single one. And if this described someone in your life, someone whose staying you've never been able to understand, share it with them. Sometimes the right words arrive before the right conversation. Subscribe not because this channel has answers, but because next time we go into something directly connected to this. Why the people who need love the most are the ones who make themselves the hardest to reach. Same nervous system, deeper layer. I'll see you in the next one.